Welcome to Discussions of Music, Healing, and Consciousness with your hosts, Chris Noble and Bill Protzman. On this podcast, Chris and I offer a spontaneous, ongoing conversation about how music is intertwined with healing and consciousness. Our first season helped lay the foundation and build some of the superstructure for what we want to do here in Season 2, where we'll be welcoming some intriguing guests, going deeper into ancient mysteries and wisdom, and cultivating your background knowledge and curiosity. We hope these discussions will inspire your own study and practice of the musical and healing arts, and that your contribution to advancing world consciousness will be satisfying for you and transformative to those around you. Let's get started.
Yeah, I love this idea, Bill, that you prompted us with last week, and it's a really good question. It's one of those funny things where, you think of it and it's very simple, but this process is really fascinating. So for our watching and listening audience, this is a series of questions centered around music and I guess intention and also goals, desires, things that we want in the future, and how we can actually use music to bridge that gap and use music as a tool to get to these goals and desires, almost that law of attraction, affirmation, sort of that sort of side of things, but we're now using music. So how does that all work, Bill? How did you come up with this sort of prompts? I'm curious.
It's really, I don't know, it's what I do. So what Chris was talking about was the Musomorphic Quest mastermind call. And we do one of those every week for people who are in the quest, and Chris is. So what we did was a kind of an exercise. And it's one that I've been sort of developing for a while, and I piloted it with you guys because I wanted to see how it would go and got good feedback. So it's really sort of, whenever I come up with a new idea like that and get positive feedback on it, it really feels good to know that it worked, right? And I love how you were surprised at the end, right? Now, our listeners already know what's coming, but that's okay. But there is a sort of surprising twist to how we can change what we do all the time and how we think all the time and sort of our mindset, processes and all of that, that occurs when you connect those things to music. And that happened. And I think it'll happen for our viewers and listeners as we do this today. And it's going to be a shorter episode because it's kind of, the questions aren't that difficult. And generally speaking, the how of how I come up with this stuff is I kind of pay attention to what's happening with my own process and wonder from time to time, hey, is this a way that I could connect music in a new way? If I'm working on a project or if I'm, forecasting the future, whatever, pretending to be an astronaut, any of the crazy things that we do, right? How would that connect to music? So the astronaut one was already been done. We talked about that a few episodes ago with 2001 Space Odyssey, right?
Right. Yeah, you can't miss that one. The music of creation and the universe.
The universal law of also sprach Zarathustra. I just love to say, so I've got to say it. And for those of you who speak German, sorry, I'm killing your language, but it's all right. So here we go. So this is how to marry desire and intention with what I call an end state, and I'm calling it an end state because goals are kind of overdone. And plus, it's more than that. It's like how we composers make things. We set out to write a piece of music, and we know what key it's going to be in, and how long it has to last, and different things, and we know our end state is going to be this completed piece of music. But then we don't really know how to do it, and we involve the creative process. That's what we're hoping to trigger for y'all now. You know what I'm saying?
And I like what you said with end state. You said end state, right? Like the end state. Yeah. And what I like about that instead of goal is that a lot of the time with goals we get very detail oriented and very physical. Like I want such and such amount of money, which is nothing wrong with that whatsoever. However, when you can also get clear on the emotions that you want to feel, a lot of the time what we really want is just to feel a certain way, not have a certain thing. The thing makes us feel a certain way. So in a way, we're really just wanting that feeling. So that end state it's like a state of mind, a state of being. What's your end state? I really like that. I hadn't come across that sort of terminology or that switch of instead of goal, it's an end state. So I like that, Bill. I just want to harp on that for a second.
Thank you. And it invites a wider arrival, I suppose, is a good way to say it. Like, the journey begins, 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Well, what does it look like when you arrive? And you've made it on the journey, but that wasn't the purpose.
How do you feel?
How do you feel? Yeah, how do you feel now? You're really tired. So invite the end state. So here we go. And feel free, if you're listening or watching this, to pause and take some time as you write down the answers to the questions, because the deeper you can go on these, of course, the more profound your experience will be. So the first question is really simple, and it's something we probably all know. So write down like 5 of your top desires right now, your desires. What do you want? What do you desire? And that could be anything. It really doesn't matter how deep these desires go. You could desire to have a nap after lunch. It's a desire. Or I'm not going to lead here on this. This is
Yeah.
totally
Anything you want. Anything you want, folks.
Anything you want. Yeah, just write down 5 of them, and pause this if you need to. And when you're ready, come back, and we'll go on to the next question. I can see Chris is busily writing over there.
Yeah, I'm muting so my keyboard doesn't, come into the beautiful podcast here. But I'm essentially ready, Bill. We can.
Yeah,
we're speeding it up for the sake of the podcast. But again, like Bill said, if you're listening to this in real time, feel free to press pause. Really think of this episode in the sense as a workshop, right? Kind of something we can participate in more.
Okay, so next question. So after you've written down your desires, do at least 5, so you have something to choose from, right? Write down for each of your desires, write down your intention or intentions for that desire. So your desire is take a nap after lunch, and your intention is to have a restful siesta and then come back refreshed, and like all the stuff that goes along with that desire. It's a interesting exercise, and it may take you a little bit deeper than you thought. So we're not talking about end states yet. We're just talking about what happens in the process.
The process to get to the end state, is that kind of what you're?
There's something like that. Yeah. I mean, the intentions may change because of the next question. So write down your intentions here. Pause if you need to, and then we'll go on to the next question. The next question, of course, is going to be, what's the end state that you want from your desire? And a decent desire, I guess we could work with this one, is everybody wants to have like a fulfilling relationship. Let's take that, right? And that's your intention. So your desire is, this magical relationship. Your intention is for it to be fulfilling. Your intention is to participate fully. Your intention is a two-way street. Like all those things are, the sort of how of that. And your end state for that fulfilling relationship could be a manifestation of a partner. The physical thing that happens.
Business, new apartment, these are all just manifestations of that, essentially.
Yeah. And the desire, of course, comes first. And then how you're going to get there.
The journey to get there.
Yeah.
The thing itself.
So end state. So for each of your 5 desires, what's the end state that you hope to achieve at some point down the road? And end states are fungible, right? I think we kind of realize that these are sort of like walking upstairs. Your end state is to be on the next step, right? So after you get there, and you start over and with a whole new set of desires, if they still need to be the same ones or if they need to be revised, you do that. It's like a process.
Yep.
So end state for your 5 desires. So by this time, if you haven't already done so, pause and write it down. But if you haven't already done so, you should have 5 desires, an intention, at least one intention for each one of those desires, and then your desired end state for each of those desires. Like how would it become real? And this is a powerful creative process right now. This is how musicians and artists and writers and everybody else create things. And sometimes, like if you're a writer or a musician, the process takes over and things change along the way, right? Like you write a character in your novel, and the character decides to take over and do what it wants to do, and then you have to follow and adjust, and all of the other things happen, right? So those those intentions along the way change.
The happy accidents and things that just you can't predict, and then all of a sudden you're in a different direction.
But those 3 things combined give you a way of knowing, like when it's happened. So you don't kick back and say, "No way, character that I wrote, you're going to do what I want you to do." You allow that creative process to take over and take hold. So here's the fun part. Pick one of your desires. Doesn't matter. Just pick one. And Chris, of course, is going to actually share his, right? You ready to do this?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so we aren't going to ask for that desire yet, but what we will ask for is, what is the song, the music, that connects most deeply with that desire that you've chosen?
And that's such a good question, Bill, because there's so many songs out there. I usually get like an array of songs that
Right, yeah, I do too, right? It just floods in. You
right.
go, oh, no, just one, please.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it's picking through all the options, right? And yeah, kind of feeling which song summarizes. Now, when you're saying what song, it's a song that summarizes the end goal. Is it one that summarizes the process? What are we talking here?
I love that. So this is something you don't want to overthink it too much. You've gotten clarity on your desire and your intention and your end state. So what picking the song does is it bubbles up the subconscious awareness that is connected with that desire and that intention, or those intentions and that end state. And if you overthink it, you're going to miss what's inside of you that wants to be present in this process. So oftentimes it's like the first thing that comes to mind, right? One of those kind of deals.
Yeah.
Or if you play a few things and they don't work, you change them and go with what does connect you most deeply into those things. So really good question, right? Because there are a lot of us who overthink this. I'm one of them too. I will agonize over a song, right?
Yeah, totally. Okay, well, I have one that has come to my mind.
Cool. Can we play it?
Yes, we can. I guess I'll give it to you. If you want to type in here, I'll maybe put it in the chat. It's by a band, Sigur Rós, which is one of my favorite bands from high school. Icelandic band. The song is Hoppipolla. I'm spelling it out because every song they have is in a really hilarious dialect of Icelandic, which even Icelandic people don't know. It's the funny thing about this band. They have their own language. Yeah.
So I've got it here.
So it's not about the lyrics. I'll make that.
It's
about the feeling.
Sometimes the feelings are more obvious when the lyrics aren't obvious.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Now, do you want me to say what my desires are and lining up with the music, or should we leave that for after the music?
After the music, right?
Okay, perfect.
And if you guys are listening to this right now, we're going to play the whole song. I don't think it's very long.
It's
and then
just
we're
under
come
5.
Just under 5. Okay, so this will be a nice musical interlude, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap it up, because how it all comes together is the fun part. So here is, I don't even want to say this. Hoppipolla.
Yeah.
Okay, so
here we go, folks.
By Sigur Rós.
Yeah.
og ég fæ blóna sér en ég stend
That's the shortest song I could pick from Sigur Rós because they're like usually a 7, 8, 9, 10 minute long kind of band song
Well,
wise.
thank you. Listeners, thank you for keeping it short. And hey, so this is the fun part now. So help us understand what it is about this song that connected with your desire.
So one of my one of my desires was working on my body. I've got some lower back pain, and it's been around for years and years and years. And I'm sure most people listening and watching we all have something usually in our body. It's kind of like that long term, injury or thing or whatever. And
Yeah.
I've recently just come around to be like, you know what, I'm tired. I'm done with my lower back issues. I'm making like a point. I'm gonna heal it. I don't know how, but it's gonna happen. I just know it. So that's one of my desires right now, is to just really heal some parts of my body, work on my body, and the way that song feels like how I would feel after after that, where I'm like
After.
like moving just freely. I feel so like free, and my full mobility, and just this like I feel like I could run on a cliff somewhere in Iceland, and the sun and the birds are flying, and you know what I mean, like that sense of freedom and
I got that visual too.
togetherness.
It was
Yeah.
like I was definitely out on some craggy mountain someplace with
Yeah.
this song, especially with the crazy horns at the end kind of dwindling away antiphonally. Like I was
Yeah.
walking by this amazing band as they're playing, and then I'm walking farther away and they're diminishing in the background. And
There's another song off the album. It's one of my all-time favorite albums. It's an amazing album. One of the other songs, the first song on the album, Glossoli, is like this huge one big crescendo for like 6 minutes. It just keeps building and building. And the music video are these kids playing in like a marching band, and then they're on this Icelandic cliff face. Same exact scene that we were just describing.
yeah,
At like sun's out. It was just very majestic, very beautiful, and very Peter Pan vibes. And then at the end of the song, spoiler alert for the music videos, they jump off the cliff and then they end up flying. And they actually take flight, and then they fly off into the sunset.
oh,
And it's
cool.
like, it's so beautiful, and it's so well shot, and it's Iceland and looking beautiful and amazing. And their music just suits that like angelic, whatever, freedom.
Viewers and
whatever.
listeners, I'll post links so you can get to both of these songs, in the show description. So look for that in the show notes.
100%.
Okay, so the desire is like the end of lower back pain.
Yeah.
So what are your intentions along the way?
Well, the intentions were, to really give myself a lot of love, and instead of, being frustrated with where my body's at, my intentions to love my body, love myself, really, self-talk in a way as if it was my good friend going through lower back pain, but it's me. So that's a big intention, is just to really root all of, like, I'm not, whenever it gets healed, great. I'm not going to push it. I'm not pushing a timeline. So I'm trying to be easy. And I, in the past, it's very easy for me to fall into frustration and impatience.
Oh, sure.
So that's one of my intentions is patience and self-love.
So the song connects you to those things. Because of the research we know about music, it connects you physically. Obviously, physically, there's a physical end state here that you're moving through. Emotionally, I love the emotion in this song. It's just so uplifting and sort of feels like it's carrying me, right?
Yeah.
Mentally, of course, the mental part of this, which is kind of nice because it short circuits our English. We don't know what they're saying.
Yeah, I love that about them.
Right?
I have no idea what they're saying.
Who
So
knows what they're
my
saying?
brain will interpret whatever I'm feeling in that moment,
There
what
it
I
is.
think they say, what they think it means.
Right. So that we've sort of short circuited the head brain, but that's okay because it's engaging the larger awareness of us, which is important. And then there's that spiritual pole, which is just so amazing. The part that is imagination that is pulling you towards your end state. That whole thing is that the MEPS, so mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, right? That the whole
Right.
thing is engaged here in a way that is below the level of how to. Right. And that's the
Yeah.
whole point here. The music works below the how to, it works below the psychology, it works below the, even the law of attraction. It's so fundamental to who we are, to vibrate
It's
and resonate.
100%. 100%. I love this method. It's so simple. But these are the questions I don't ask myself. So I'm glad that you're coming up, or you have come up with this, Bill. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Absolutely. Feel free. I mean, give it a try, folks. What can it hurt? But on the other side, you might be surprised at how it can help. So thank you all for being here, for sitting through this little workshop with Chris and with me. And Chris, thank you for being open about what you're experiencing and what you want.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing.
My pleasure.
Naming those
My
things
pleasure.
is important.
Yeah, thanks, Bill, and thanks for everyone for tuning in to another episode. Where can they find Musomorphic, this quest?
Oh yeah,
Bill?
sure. Which, by the way, Chris is a passenger, and hopefully we'll be able to interview him on his progress here at some point. But yeah, quest.musomorphic.com, M-U-S-I, Musi, like music, but without the C, M-U-S-I-M-O-R-P-H-I-C, like transformic, Musomorphic,
Musomorphic. I love it.
metamorphose. Yeah,
It's
caterpillar to
metamorphosis.
butterfly. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, well, that was an awesome episode. Thanks again, Bill, for that. And everyone, let us know in the comments or email us directly how you received this technique and what kind of progress you've made on this. And any questions that you have, let us know. And otherwise, we will catch you on the next episode of Discussions of Music, Healing, and Consciousness.
Thank you, brother. Aho.
Thank you. Aho.